Alright, I wanted to talk about an idea that occurred to me. But I first wanted to start off by talking about, I own all the cutlasses. I'm not using them all right now, but the arcane cutlasses, the fire, water. There's not one for ice, but this basically is the same thing. I think this is actually stronger in certain circumstances. Energy, light, darkness. I own the one for wind also. But I'm using foam finger, level 5 foam finger in some instances. But I accumulated them all with this idea that I wanted to try to eventually basically just use them, not to hit the attack button. I really don't like to play the game using the attack button. I think if there were ever changes where they went back to where you're hitting the attack button constantly, or you kind of have to, I probably would stop playing. It's boring to do it that way, so I always try to find ways to not do that. So I'll either cast spells and try to regenerate my MP, or like spam clever disguise, maybe use the shield cakes and add boosts and then bake, just different things like that. And then with, it looks like a necromancer, with the grasp essence, has free spells, and then actually the Neko armors have a free spells. So it makes it kind of a doable thing. And I was playing around, and I had decided, well, what if I tried a couple things. First off, the NekoOverlord, it eats the burns and the bleeds, and then it also element seeks based on what that particular Sol Neko defends against. This one is earth and light, so it would seek between earth and light. There's a SP based, it's a skill, it's a spell like skill. So if I'm holding the light arcane cutlass and this attacks versus light, or this attacks versus light, it will get the boosts. A couple of things, I'm using my standard phase and creature 72, but I have actually swapped some things out. I use a couple different bleed pets, plus the necromancer has the ice-based bleed pet, so I would use the bleed pets versus monsters with a bunch of resistances below, or well below 100, because bleed is harm based. And then I also, for right now, I have the Twisted Siphon. I may figure something else out with that. I'm not set in stone there. But I have the Unapoka, the Psycho Candy Hearts, which I showed the last video, and I can re-demonstrate that if I need to. But basically, the Psycho Candy Hearts will give the spell based on the element of the weapon that's in your hand, and then therefore it would get a boost. So it to me, by having this, that means that I have a fire spell, a water spell, an ice spell, energy spell, light spell, and darkness spell, all built in to this guy right here. So to me that works. Mandate's good if I want to play block, or I just need some defensive help. This is designed to boost the damage here. This, I may swap this out, and then, but this guy right here, 74th Law, does a pretty good bleed and burn. So what I've been doing is a couple things. So like one thing I might do is start off with this, so I'm giving myself that buff. But then this miscellaneous right here is fantastic. Okay, so Phoenix Shadow Brooch. It's plus 50 charisma and plus 50 luck and plus 35 endurance, so it's giving me some hit points. By having 50 charisma and 50 luck, it's on top of the toggle that this guy gives, the Sol Neko, so I'm up to 350. I've got Mother's Growth Shield and Pies, which also is another plus 50. When using those, I'm up to 400. And then I also have the Unapoka, so right now that's 355. If I had those shields, I would actually have 500 charisma. This spell and this skill uses charisma for stats. So I would get double stats with the boost. And if I'm using this guy also will inflict a fire-based burn based on these landed hits. Obviously, Sol Neko also, because of the skills here, bleed, and then here is burn, also do burn and bleed, which this would eat. So what I would do is just cast this thing. You have a high inflict rate for burn and bleed. Bleed's already 0.48. Now it's up to 84. And I almost killed the entire, beat the monster just off of the burn and bleed stacking. If you notice, it's got water damage burn, darkness damage burn, and that's based on my pet and guest. Got the bleed, which is combined with a misc pet and guest. The Elevon, and then a power 3.83 for 5 rounds fire damage. Alright, so this Sol Neko, I told you, so it will attack earth or light, whatever is greater. So this will be 100 versus 100%. No, it's going to be earth. Let's see if I can get it. I mean, I can get it. Yeah, I've already got myself out of it here. Alright, I'll just finish this off. I wanted to demonstrate the type of damage that both of these skills are doing. That's 150 light there. Did Unapoka for another 105. I'm gonna go ahead and just give myself, so it shows 400 charisma plus Unapoka's 505, which stats will cap it 500 or minus 500. I have light arcane cutlass. I'm going to use just for demonstration purposes. This is without a lucky strike. At 500 charisma versus 150 light. $19.59. I was doing over 2,000, well over 2,000 earlier with it. So we'll see what a lucky strike looks like with the crown. If this monster even survives that onslaught there. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and do switch to the crown just to see what kind of damage we're going to be able to do here. 1022. Like I said, it can get pretty high. You know, it's not the damage cap or anything, but alright, so now I want to demonstrate so I'm going to be inflicting a bunch of burns and bleeds here. That's burn and bleed, burn and bleed, burn and bleed. Alright, so we've got the bleed's not there anymore. But what I can do, if I want to save my resources, so we've got 2198. There's no bleed, so I think bleed's a heavier influencer on this. It actually did that kind of damage, and it did energy. I wasn't paying attention because it syncs between energy and ice, and it did almost 2,000 damage. And again, I wasn't even really paying attention. That was not a lucky strike either. No other boosts like with this guy. Alright, let's do this one more time and see if we can get alright, we got a couple burns there, a bleed. This does light and fire. We'll do 1 versus 115 fire there. I'll keep it. And then we'll have a free spell here. So the Well's Art will go from... So this is 500 charisma. It's eating burn and bleed. No hyper crit though. Versus 115 for free. So basically 2,500 and something damage. That was just after inflicting one round of alright, so what I'm going to do here actually, I'm just going to focus on bleeding. So I'm going to pretend like this monster has like 50% resistance. So in this case, I would probably just switch to Foam Finger. Go here. And then I know this isn't going to do a lot of damage, but I'm hoping that the bleed sticks. So he's got 3,300 hit points, not a lot of damage based on the actual spell. But bleeding's starting to stack, and then that's about 600. And hopefully it doesn't make the bleed go away. And we'll see if this continues to stack. That one was like 1,100. And it'll just continue to grow most of the time. Sometimes the bleed will fall off. Bleeds up to 2.4. You can get about 500 damage for every 1 power bleed. It's like 4 to 500. So it was ended up over 3. So that was probably 1,500 damage in just bleed alone, and only a couple of rounds. And then if you're finding a monster that's got a shit ton of hit points, you can stack it and stack it and stack it and then consume it, especially on a hyper crit. I do have a video from a long time ago of stacking the GPS tank burns, and I think in Hypercrit, I think that was without Frostfell Crown, and I think the damages were in the like 15,000 per hit or something. But that's all. I just wanted to go over the Arcane Cutlass Mage portion of the Sol Neko that I don't know that anybody really does. Maybe they do, but I think it's a potent combination.